The cavernous ballroom, usually reserved for industry galas and major announcements, shimmered under the bright lights. Hundreds of colleagues, industry titans, and media representatives buzzed with anticipation. My stomach churned, a mixture of nausea and a cold, determined resolve. On the giant screen at the front, my life's work, Project Chimera, was displayed in its full, stunning glory. Every intricate detail, every innovative solution, every painstakingly crafted line of code shimmered before my eyes. But it wasn't my name illuminated beneath the bold title. Instead, it was his, Mark Sterling. And in mere moments, he would stride onto that stage, bask in the thunderous applause, and accept the prestigious Innovation Award, claiming every ounce of credit for what was undeniably mine. My hands, hidden beneath the table, clenched into fists, but a grim smile touched my lips. He had no idea that every single element he so proudly displayed was a silent, ticking time bomb, meticulously crafted by my hands, designed to detonate at the precise moment of his manufactured triumph. I, Eleanor Vance, poured years of my life, my expertise, and my very soul into developing a truly groundbreaking project, one that promised to revolutionize our entire industry. But my ambitious colleague, Mark Sterling, a man I had once foolishly trusted, ruthlessly stole my work, claiming it as his own to secure a coveted promotion and immense public recognition. This is the story of how I endured the most profound professional betrayal, and how I meticulously planned a quiet, digital revenge, ensuring his spectacular public downfall at the peak of his stolen glory. For 25 years, I, Eleanor Vance, had dedicated my career to Apex Solutions, a technology firm known for its cutting-edge innovations in data analytics. I started as a junior programmer, fresh out of university, filled with idealistic visions of making a tangible impact. Over the decades, I climbed the corporate ladder steadily, not through flashy self-promotion, but through consistent, meticulous work, a relentless pursuit of elegant solutions, and an unshakable commitment to quality. I became a senior systems architect, a title that, while not glamorous, carried immense respect within the engineering department. I was the person they called when a complex system failed, or when a seemingly impossible technical challenge needed a fresh, unconventional approach. My colleagues knew my work, even if the upper echelons of management sometimes overlooked the quiet, behind-the-scenes architects. My true passion lay in understanding the intricate dance of data, discovering hidden patterns, and building systems that could predict future trends with astonishing accuracy. For the past 5 years, this passion had consumed my evenings, weekends, and even many early mornings. I had been working on what I privately called Project Chimera. It was an ambitious, self-funded, and deeply personal venture to develop a predictive analytics platform that could not only identify emerging market trends, but also simulate their precise impact on various economic sectors, allowing for unprecedented strategic foresight. It was a fusion of advanced AI, neural networks, and a proprietary algorithm I had painstakingly developed from scratch. I genuinely believed it had the potential to be a game changer, not just for Apex Solutions, but for the entire global economy. This was my legacy project, the culmination of everything I had learned and dreamed of achieving. I worked on Chimera in my home office, carefully documenting every line of code, every algorithm tweak, every research paper I devoured. I used cloud storage, but also kept multiple encrypted local backups, a habit ingrained from years of safeguarding critical company data. I was cautious, perhaps overly so, but experience had taught me that in the world of high-stakes technology, intellectual property was gold. Then, Mark Sterling entered my professional orbit. Mark was a rising star in the sales and marketing division, 10 years my junior, with an infectious charisma and an uncanny ability to charm anyone, from the newest intern to the CEO. He exuded confidence, always dressed impeccably, and spoke with an authoritative air that made people listen, even if his technical understanding was superficial at best. Our paths crossed when his department needed a new tool for market analysis, and I was assigned to lead the technical team. Mark quickly recognized the potential of my work, specifically the early prototypes of Chimera's predictive capabilities. He became incredibly enthusiastic, frequently scheduling meetings to brainstorm and collaborate on how this technology could be leveraged for marketing. I was flattered. I genuinely believed his enthusiasm was a testament to the brilliance of my concept. I shared my progress, explained the intricate details of the algorithms, and even gave him access to a secure, limited functionality demo. He seemed genuinely fascinated, asking insightful questions that made me believe he truly grasped the depth of my work. He praised my ingenuity, repeatedly telling me that I was a hidden genius and that Chimera was a masterpiece. He talked about a partnership, how we could bring this to the world together, positioning it perfectly for market adoption. I saw him as the charismatic voice for my technical brilliance, a perfect complement to my methodical nature. I saw a future where Chimera would launch, revolutionizing our company, and we would both reap the rewards. I was naive, blinded by my passion for the project and a desperate longing for my work to finally be seen and recognized on a grand scale. My trust in Mark grew. He became my confidant, the only person outside my immediate team who truly understood the scope of Chimera. I shared late-night breakthroughs, early morning frustrations, and even my anxieties about intellectual property protection. He always reassured me, telling me to focus on the technical side, and he would handle the politics and presentations. He even suggested sending him copies of my working files for collaborative review and to prepare a joint presentation deck. I complied, emailing him encrypted versions of my latest code, detailed design documents, and even my personal research notes, all time-stamped and carefully labeled with my name. I felt a surge of excitement, believing our partnership was finally accelerating Chimera towards its public debut. I was convinced my professional breakthrough was finally within reach, and that Mark was the key to unlocking it. I was utterly wrong. The first tremor of betrayal, a subtle tremor that I initially dismissed as a misunderstanding, arrived in the form of an internal memo. It announced a major company-wide presentation of a revolutionary new predictive analytics platform slated to take place in 3 weeks. The memo was prominently signed by Mark Sterling, head of advanced market strategy. My heart leaped. This had to be it. This was the launch of Chimera. But there was no mention of my name, no acknowledgement of the engineering team, nothing about my years of foundational work. I brushed it off, telling myself it was likely just an oversight, a standard marketing announcement before the technical details were fully revealed. Mark had promised me joint recognition, a shared spotlight. A few days later, a colleague from another department, Sarah, stopped by my desk. "Eleanor," she said, her voice unusually subdued, "I just saw the preliminary slides for Mark Sterling's big presentation. Project Oracle, he's calling it. It looks remarkably similar to some of the concepts you've been working on. Almost identical, in fact." My blood ran cold. Project Oracle? Not Chimera? And his slides? A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. I immediately sought out Mark, finding him in a flurry of activity, surrounded by a team preparing for the presentation. "Mark," I began, trying to keep my voice even. "I saw the memo about Project Oracle. What's going on? Is this Chimera rebranded? And why isn't my name on any of the announcements?" Mark turned to me, his smile wide, but his eyes held a glint of something cold and dismissive. "Oh, Eleanor," he chuckled, "Oracle is an evolution of some of the preliminary ideas we discussed. You provided some useful inputs. Of course, but the overarching strategy, the market positioning, the entire framework, that's all me. And the name, Oracle, just tested better with focus groups. You know, marketing." He waved a dismissive hand. "As for credit, you'll be acknowledged, don't worry. A brief mention in the special thanks section, perhaps. You're a brilliant architect, But this is a strategic project, Eleanor, not just an engineering feat. It requires a different kind of leadership. The air in my lungs turned to ice. Inputs? Discussions? Special thanks. My voice was barely a whisper. This wasn't just rebranding. This was outright theft. He was claiming my life's work, my masterpiece, as his evolution. The casual dismissal, the condescending tone, it was a slap in the face, a public humiliation before the public humiliation had even begun. My mind reeled. The hours, the years, the sacrifices, all reduced to mere inputs. The rage that surged through me was unlike anything I had ever felt. It was a cold, calculated fury, tempered by a sudden, terrifying clarity. He had not only stolen my project, he had stolen my recognition, my legacy, and had done so with a smug, arrogant contempt. That night, I didn't sleep. I replayed every conversation, every meeting, every email. His questions, once seemingly insightful, now appeared as careful interrogations designed to extract every detail. His requests for collaborative files were clearly data extraction. His flattery was a manipulative smokescreen. The betrayal was absolute, profound, and meticulously planned on his part. He had used my trust, my passion, and my naivete to build his own empire on the ruins of my dreams. The impending presentation wasn't just a launch, it was his coronation and my professional execution. I knew then that I couldn't let this stand. Not after all the years, not after all the work. The only way to reclaim my work and my dignity was to expose him, not quietly, not behind closed doors, but publicly, devastatingly, for everyone to see. The initial shock quickly morphed into a steely resolve. Mark Sterling had played a cruel game, but he had underestimated his opponent. He saw me as a quiet, unassuming engineer, easily dismissed, easily exploited. He didn't see the decades of methodical problem-solving, the relentless pursuit of precision, or the deeply ingrained habit of meticulously documenting every single step of my work. My engineering mind, once focused on building, now turned to dismantling. I would expose him, not with an emotional outburst, but with irrefutable, undeniable truth. My first step was to revisit my original project Chimera files. Every line of code, every design document, every presentation slide I had ever created was stored in my personal, encrypted cloud server and on multiple local backups. Crucially, many of these files contained subtle, invisible watermarks. For years, as a personal quirk, I had embedded tiny, unique identifiers within the metadata of my most important digital work, specific character sequences, unique pixel patterns and graphical elements, or highly complex, non-functional code snippets that, when compiled, would reveal a specific digital signature. These were invisible to the naked eye, undetectable by standard plagiarism checkers, and known only to me. It was my personal intellectual property fingerprint, a habit born of an almost obsessive need for meticulous attribution. Now, this seemingly innocuous habit became my most potent weapon. I knew Mark had copied my files wholesale. It was highly unlikely he had the technical expertise or the patience to comb through thousands of lines of code or complex data structures to remove these deep-seated markers. He was a salesman, a showman, not a developer. I meticulously checked my backups, ensuring every version of Chimera, from its nascent stages to its near completion, was accounted for and digitally signed by my unique identifiers. Beyond the existing watermarks, I decided to plant new, even more insidious traps. I accessed a copy of the Oracle presentation deck that Mark's team had distributed internally. It was indeed a blatant copy of my Chimera presentation, simply rebranded. I introduced a new, subtle layer of digital poison. Using my advanced coding skills, I embedded a series of conditional scripts and time-delayed triggers within specific sections of the presentation file and the associated demo code. These scripts were designed to lie dormant until activated by a very specific command, or after a certain number of presentations, or by a predetermined date. When activated, They would reveal my original authorship, display my unique watermarks, or even subtly alter data on the screen to contradict Mark's narrative, making him look incompetent or dishonest. These were not overt hacks, but rather carefully designed digital Easter eggs that would flip from benign to devastating at my command. I also configured remote access protocols for the presentation, allowing me to potentially trigger these Easter eggs discreetly from a distance. The thought sent a thrill of cold satisfaction through me. As Mark Sterling basked in the glow of his impending triumph, I silently toiled, weaving the threads of his downfall. He held internal meetings, refining his stolen presentation, his ego growing with each passing day. He was already receiving accolades, his name whispered in the executive corridors as the next big thing. I attended these meetings, a ghost in the room, watching him present my slides, using my data, claiming my insights as his own. Each moment was a fresh wound, but it fueled my resolve. I maintained a calm, professional demeanor, asking seemingly innocuous questions about the technical details of Oracle, questions that only someone who deeply understood the system would ask. Mark, unable to truly answer, would deflect, promising to circle back or assigning a junior engineer to provide more details. This further solidified my suspicion that his knowledge was superficial, an empty shell built on stolen work. My next step was to create a comprehensive dossier. Every email where I shared files with Mark, every meeting where I presented prototypes, every casual conversation I could recall where I discussed Chimera's details with him, I logged it all. I cross-referenced my meticulously timestamped internal documents with his Oracle releases. The similarities were glaring, the coincidences impossible. This dossier would be my paper trail, supporting the digital evidence. I also began reaching out to trusted colleagues and mentors in the industry, subtly hinting at concerns about intellectual property integrity within the company, planting seeds of doubt without revealing my full hand. I needed to ensure that when the truth exploded, there would be a network of respected professionals who would listen and believe me. Mark's arrogance grew exponentially. He stopped even bothering with the casual acknowledgments of my input. He spoke of Oracle as his brainchild, his vision, his legacy. The company's annual Innovation Award Gala, a highly publicized event with industry leaders and investors, was scheduled for 2 weeks later. To my utter disgust, a leaked internal memo revealed that Mark Sterling was the frontrunner for the prestigious Innovator of the Year award, largely on the strength of Project Oracle. The award ceremony itself would feature a keynote presentation from the winner, a grand stage, and a live broadcast. This was it. This was the moment for his public downfall. This was the target for my carefully laid traps. The greater his ascent, the more spectacular his fall would be. My heart pounded with a mix of anticipation and a cold, determined dread. With the Innovation Award Gala just days away, my preparations intensified. I confirmed that Mark would be using a specific presentation laptop, preloaded with his Oracle presentation. This was crucial. I needed physical access to it, even for a few minutes. I formulated a plan. I would accidentally spill coffee on his primary laptop during a pre-gala rehearsal, forcing him to use a backup. I had already prepared a replacement backup drive, a seemingly innocuous USB stick, containing a subtly modified version of the Oracle presentation. This version contained the most aggressive of my digital traps, designed to trigger not just authorship reveals, but also to subtly corrupt data fields on his demo, leading to visibly incorrect results during his live presentation. The humiliation would be complete. However, an unforeseen obstacle arose. 2 days before the gala, a high-security lockdown was implemented on all corporate devices due to a newly detected sophisticated phishing attempt targeting executive data. IT announced that all personal USB drives were strictly prohibited, and only pre-approved, company-issued devices would be allowed to connect to the network or presentation systems. My plan for the coffee spill and USB swap was instantly dead in the water. My heart sank. How could I remotely trigger the traps without direct access or a network connection from an unapproved device? Panic threatened to overwhelm me, but my technical mind, honed by years of debugging complex systems, quickly pivoted. I remembered the remote access protocols I had built into the original digital traps. They were designed for contingency, for remote testing. They relied on specific network packets and an encrypted handshake. If I could get an approved device onto the internal network, perhaps I could still trigger the traps wirelessly. I worked through the night, tirelessly modifying a secure, company-issued diagnostic tablet that I legitimately used for system checks. I loaded it with a tiny, undetectable script that, upon activation, would scan for Mark's presentation laptop on the internal network and send the specific trigger command to unleash my digital poison. It was risky, pushing the boundaries of company policy, but the stakes were too high to back down now. The night before the gala, I ensured my formal wear was ready, but my focus was entirely on the technical precision of my plan. I double-checked the script on the diagnostic tablet, ran simulated triggers, and verified the encrypted handshake. It had to be flawless. This was not just about revenge. It was about justice for my years of dedicated work, for the integrity of innovation, and for the quiet individuals like me who often get trampled by ambitious charlatans. I knew the moment would be terrifying, exhilarating, and utterly decisive. Mark Sterling was about to step onto the biggest stage of his life, completely unaware that his stolen triumph was merely the countdown to his own spectacular, self-inflicted destruction. The stage was set, the trap armed, and the spotlight waited to illuminate not his glory, but his shame. The grand ballroom hummed with expectant energy. I sat in the fifth row, an anonymous figure in the glittering crowd, my heart a silent drum against my ribs. The diagnostic tablet, nestled discreetly in my small clutch bag, felt like a live wire against my skin. The Innovation Award ceremony had begun. Speeches droned on, platitudes about vision and leadership filled the air. My gaze was fixed on the stage, where Mark Sterling sat, radiating smug confidence, occasionally flashing a dazzling smile at the cameras. He was dressed impeccably, his hair perfectly coiffed, every inch the triumphant innovator. He exchanged knowing glances with company executives, accepting their hushed congratulations. The sheer arrogance radiating from him solidified my resolve. Finally, the moment arrived. The CEO, a towering figure known for his stern demeanor, stepped to the podium. And now he boomed, for this year's most prestigious honor, the Innovator of the Year Award. This individual has redefined our capabilities, pioneered a new era of data analytics, and brought forth a project that will undoubtedly reshape our future, Project Oracle. The spotlight swung, blindingly, to Mark Sterling. A thunderous applause erupted. Mark rose, a picture of false humility, making his way to the stage. He accepted the gleaming trophy, posed for the cameras, and then approached the podium, his smile wider than ever. He began his acceptance speech, his voice smooth and confident, filled with carefully rehearsed phrases about my vision and my team's tireless dedication. He then moved to the large, interactive screen, ready to demonstrate Project Oracle. "Now, if you'll indulge me," he announced, gesturing grandly, "I'd like to give you a live demonstration of Oracle's unparalleled predictive power. Our proprietary algorithm, developed over countless hours, can accurately forecast market shifts." He tapped a key on the podium's integrated keyboard, initiating the presentation. This was my cue. Beneath the table, my fingers moved with practiced precision. I activated the script on my diagnostic tablet. A silent, encrypted signal pulsed through the internal network, searching for Mark's laptop. The connection established almost instantly. A tiny, almost imperceptible green light flashed on my tablet, confirming the trigger had been sent. My heart hammered, a frantic drumbeat in my ears. On the main screen, Mark's presentation continued for a few more seconds. He clicked to a data visualization slide, ready to show a projected market growth curve. But then it happened. The clean, professional Apex Solutions logo in the top corner of the screen flickered, subtly at first, then dissolved, replaced by a much older, pixelated version of the original Project Chimera logo, my design. A collective murmur rippled through the audience. Mark paused, his brow furrowing. A slight technical glitch. Ladies and gentlemen, he chuckled nervously, trying to wave it off. He clicked again, attempting to advance the slide. Instead, the screen zoomed in, not on his predicted growth, but on a tiny, almost imperceptible section of code at the bottom right of the displayed graph. Suddenly, that section of code visibly illuminated in bright yellow, and a series of unique, complex digital characters began to rapidly scroll beneath it. These were my embedded watermarks, my unique digital signature, now screaming their presence to hundreds. The murmur in the audience grew into a confused chatter. Just then, as he desperately tried to dismiss it, a new line of text, bold and unmissable, blazed across the bottom of the screen, overriding everything. It read, Project Chimera, original source code, Eleanor Vance. A stunned gasp rippled through the audience. Before he could react, another line appeared, even more damning, developed and validated. Apex Solutions internal server log, creator, Eleanor Vance. The ballroom fell into a stunned silence. You could hear a pin drop. The CEO, who had been watching from his seat, now stood up, his face thunderous. Mark Sterling stood frozen, trapped in the unforgiving glare of the spotlight, his face a mask of utter horror and dawning realization. His entire carefully constructed lie was crumbling, live, before his very eyes, for the whole world to see. He looked directly at me, his eyes wide with disbelief and a cold, murderous rage. He knew I had done this. My revenge was complete. The aftermath was swift and devastating. Mark Sterling's moment of triumph disintegrated into a public spectacle of profound shame and professional ruin. The CEO, furious and humiliated by the public exposure, immediately called security to escort Mark from the stage. An internal investigation was launched within hours. My meticulously compiled dossier, combined with the irrefutable digital evidence that had played out live on screen, left no room for doubt. Mark was not only fired, but also faced a barrage of legal actions from Apex Solutions for intellectual property theft and gross professional misconduct. His name, once synonymous with rising ambition, became a byword for deceit and public disgrace within the industry. He disappeared from public life, his career utterly destroyed. As for me, Eleanor Vance, the quiet systems architect, my professional standing was not only vindicated but soared. Project Chimera was rightfully attributed to me, and under my true leadership, it was properly launched, bringing immense success to Apex Solutions. I was finally recognized for my decades of hard work, ingenuity, and integrity, and promoted to a position of true influence within the company. It was a long, arduous journey, but the satisfaction of seeing justice served and my life's work celebrated was immeasurable. This experience taught me a profound lesson about trust, ambition, and the insidious nature of betrayal. It reminded me that even in the quiet corners of the corporate world, true innovation is built on integrity, not theft. And sometimes, the most unassuming individuals possess the sharpest minds and the most meticulous plans, capable of dismantling even the most arrogant empires. The truth, painstakingly preserved and strategically revealed, always has a way of finding its spotlight.